Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've been thinking about one aspect of the Thunderbolts movie, and this is where I have a prediction that I hope doesn't come true, but it has all the markings of something that is going to come true, is going to happen. And so there's some spoilers here for Thunderbolts, but what I want to talk a little bit about is Sam Wilson, the Falcon, and how badly, in a lot of cases, the comics and the movies increasingly have botched this character. So let me kind of back up a second. So in the comics, John Walker was introduced to the Mark Grinwald run. He was the replacement Captain America from a corrupt government that was ultimately revealed to have, a lot of a lot of involvement from the Red Skull, who was posing there at the time. But it was basically telling a more corrupt government kind of story. This was the one of the early Steve Rogers questioning kind of blind loyalty to the flag and how he serves the country while still kind of maintaining his own ethics and values. It was a good story. It was done well. It was given a lot of time. There was a significant amount of time where Steve Rogers was the captain, was in the black, red, and white costume. It was done very well. So John Walker became the replacement Captain America, and in that comic, he was basically written to be somewhat insecure and thus arrogant. The arrogance was covering up a deeper insecurity. And he killed when he had a good partner and his partner was killed. And so he snapped and he started killing people and he got kind of, he basically lost his mind. In the comic book, they did a fairly effective job of showing a guy who was clearly not ready to do what he was doing, and was not a villain, but definitely unstable, definitely not the right temperament for a Captain America, and it just I think he got addicted at one point to kind of a serum to make him stronger. There's just some aspects where he was clearly a flawed character. So and Steve Rogers regained the mantle and everything else. And of course, in the comic books, Steve Rogers would go on to question America again, roughly 8 billion times when we got into the year 2000. That became the go-to story for all of the stories, which was super. Handed the mantle off for a period of time to Bucky, and then ultimately to Sam Wilson, the Falcon. And then the Falcon turned it in, and then the Falcon took it back again, and it's gone back and forth, and it's been a super fun time ever since. In the movies, of course, you had Falcon and Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, and if you watch that, basically Sam Wilson was trying to be Captain America, but he hadn't formally taken on the name yet, but he was carrying around the shield because Steve Rogers gifted it to him. And the government wanted to have their guy, who was John Walker. And the storyline played out mostly the same, except John Walker was not, they didn't go as deep in showing his flaws. In the comic, you had a unshaven, kind of crazed John Walker at times just kind of talking to himself and clearly had snapped. And in the Falcon Winter Soldier, they did play it out somewhat similar with his friend getting killed, and then he murdered somebody. But it was it was different. It didn't have the same kind of full on snap bloodbath kind of intensity that the comics did. It was done a lot more. It was more understandable, I guess, is the best way to put it. And of course, he fell from grace and everything else. And then you saw ultimately Sam Wilson take the mantle. There wasn't a big climactic fight between the Falcon and John Walker, but you had that take place, and then you had John Walker show up in Thunderbolts, and in Thunderbolts he's working for Val, he's working for the government, and he is a definitely kind of broken character in the sense that he hasn't been able to get over his mistakes. They were very public, and it was haunting him. They did in the Thunderbolts. One of the more effective things they did was they showed John Walker still try to kind of maintain a little bit of his arrogant facade, but also, the little flashback to him at home is tragic, and his wife and kid left him. And I mean, it's just you got a guy who's not spiraling into madness, but definitely depressed and struggling, but still wants to do the right thing. And there's lots of moments where John Walker is, for all the bluff and the grandeur, is doing the right thing. He's part of the team. He's trying. And so they don't sink him as far as they do in the comics, which leads me to the first or the second, I guess, post-credit scene where it's revealed that the new Avengers are hanging out in their headquarters, and that we learn off camera that Sam Wilson is angry at them and is suing them for the name and filed for a copyright and forming his own team of Avengers. And you can kind of see in the movies, this gets into the prediction part, where in the future we're going to get some scenes between the Sam Wilson Avengers versus the new Avengers. And the movie is going to want you to buy Sam Wilson's Avengers as the real ones, and the team that John Walker is on as the kind of the jokey ones, or the not good ones, the B Avengers, if you will. The problem is, I don't think the movie audiences are going to take it that way, because the Thunderbolts gave us a 2-hour movie, whether you watched it or didn't, where, again, whether you liked it or didn't, you saw these heroes struggle to come together, defeat this kind of big evil in New York. And you got too much into them. We got to know them a little personally, and we see that they're all kind of humans who are trying to make it through, trying to do the right thing, and they've come together as a team. They're a dysfunctional team, to be sure, but we still got to see it on camera. We've been with them on that journey, and many people are going to root for their success. By contrast, you have the Sam Wilson team, who we haven't seen yet, but is going to show up on screen. There isn't a movie for them. They weren't in the new Captain America film. So the first time we're likely going to see them is, in the next Avengers film. And it's reasonable to guess that team's going to include like Shang-Chi and She-Hulk. And, and then maybe I Miss Marvel out there making a young Avengers team. I don't know. Or you got Ant-Man's probably going to be on that team, or whatever. But the problem is we see no movie of them coming together, and a lot of the movies just of their kind of individual origins haven't been the best received. And so what's going to happen, in my mind, is that the audience is going to have a lot more fondness for the Thunderbolts new Avengers than Sam Wilson's team, who we haven't even met yet. And that's not going to be what Marvel and Disney want you to believe. That's not going to be the angle they're going to want you to take. Their goal is, you're supposed to like the Sam Wilson team because he's Captain America, and you're supposed to dislike, or at least view as more jokey, the new Avenger team, who are the losers. I mean, you could kind of see a world where Doom murders all the new Avengers relatively quick because they're used as kind of cannon fodder. By the way, I should pause at this moment and say, it's not like we've got 10 years of fondness for the new Avengers characters either. It's just we're going from a movie with some character development and some personal backstory versus nothing, like literally nothing. There has been no assembly of the other group, and in some ways this mirrors a little bit the problem with Sam Wilson, the Falcon, or Captain America. Is we've seen not nearly enough of the build to this character. And we've also seen a change in character. And so I'll get into that. But anyway, for last bit of my prediction on the Avengers teams, what's going to happen is Marvel and, the usual suspects in IGN and, wherever, Mary Sue, will go into racism. You're going to hate the Sam Wilson's team, especially if it's like She-Hulk, Shang-Chi, Sam Wilson. You're going to hate it because you're a misogynist and you're racist. And you just want the white man team. You've got the Red Guardian, and you've got John Walker, white dudes. You've got the Ghost, okay. You've got Yelena, you've got Bob, another white guy. It's the white team against the diverse team, and that's this fight is coming. And I'm exhausted in even thinking about it. But this is how it's going to play out. But the part I'm drawing your attention to here is the stupidity of it all, because fans, if they reject the Sam Wilson team, it's because they haven't met the Sam Wilson team. There's been no there's been no storyline of how they've come together. Maybe they're somehow crammed that into the first 20 minutes of the Doom Avengers movie, but there's been nothing. And by the way, if you're, I hope we don't go down this path as well, but if you're expanding this bubble, you've also got the Fantastic Four, another all white team, one orange, I guess. And they're going to be popular because they're brand new and there's some excitement around their arrival and everything else. And I just think you've got you've got a you're going to get a fight out of this that is of Marvel and Disney's own making, because they've chosen to just assume that you're going to go along with some things. And that brings me to Sam Wilson, the Falcon, or Captain America. I have, for what it's worth, I have no issues with Sam Wilson being Captain America, but I think there's two major flaws in it. Number one, in the movies, and to some extent the comics, but less the comics, when Sam Wilson became Captain America, there was remarkably little build in the movies. In the comics, there was definitely more, but the build was also very uneven. It felt like Marvel itself was schizophrenic in that if they wanted to do this or not. They were building toward it. Reminder built toward it fairly well, I think, in his run, but you saw a lot of just uneven writing when it came to this character and his lead up to taking the mantle. In the movies, it was even less. I mean, we're meant to really rely on a friendship between Steve Rogers and the Falcon that largely happened off camera. It's not that it didn't happen, because, they have lines and scenes that refer to it, but a lot of that was not shown. It was told. The other problem, which happened a lot in the comics, and I'm fairly blown away that they're doing it in the movies as well, is that the personality of Sam Wilson changed with the mantle of Captain America into a far less likable one. In the comics, and by the way, there's there's the storyline, I think it was like Red Death, that's not the name of it, but it was in the Avengers, it was right before Avengers Disassembled. And it featured the Red Skull basically poisoning Mount Rushmore and gassing it, and how the Avengers are going to take on. And there's a scene in that storyline right at the end where the Falcon takes on the Red Skull. And it's really good. If you read that book and you read that moment, you can absolutely see Sam Wilson taking on the Captain America. You could see he's brave. He still has his own personality. It's still the Falcon, but he's doing heroic things. That is a great scene for a major character, is in that storyline. Later in comics, the Falcon during the Ed Brubaker run was seen as a ally to Cap, but he had his own personality. He had a very distinct personality, had been built for decades, and it was an enjoyable one. It was a good, the character was written well. It was a good character. Once Sam Wilson got to be Captain America in the comics, he transformed almost overnight, and it happened at that Axis event, into some sudden, and it wasn't, but this is before he was brainwashed into a bad guy, it's just him. He turned into a drill sergeant type personality. And it's a far less likable personality. It took a lot of his kind of unique elements as a character, and it just turned him into somewhat of a mindless military guy. And the movies have largely followed suit. If you look at Falcon Winter Soldier, you're seeing a lot of good kind of build of that character, of his personality, and he's a good actor. I mean, they lucked into having a really good person playing Captain America, playing Sam Wilson. He's actually likable as an actor. And so you see this whole thing go through, and right at the end of Falcon Winter Soldier, you see this personality shift when he puts on the costume. And you could kind of chalk it up to, well, we're wrapping this thing up, and he's got the costume now, so he's trying to look very official and everything else. But it's still it's a bit jarring from the first, whatever it was, 8 episodes? I'm sure I have that wrong, but for the first 7 episodes, you've got Anthony Mackie kind of as himself, doing a good job, and then he suddenly pivots. And in the new Captain America movie, it's similar. You get military Captain America. And then this gets us to the scene in Thunderbolts, and even though it's off screen, the moments that we hear about him is, I had a call with Sam Wilson, says Bucky. It didn't go well. It's like, yeah, he's filed for copyright infringement, and he's put together his own team because we're losers. And it's like, are they trying to make him a villain? Because that's an unlikable move. There's no world where heroes are like, I am a hero that everybody loves who files for copyright infringement. Like, what? In what world does that make the character look good? And you've gone from somebody who's kind of an unlikely hero, in Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson, to a drill sergeant like personality who's suing other teams. I mean, it's just baffling. And all of these things make the character unlikable. Honestly, you're trying to. I mean, the thing about Captain America, Steve Rogers, Chris Evans, was that he had a kind of at times he's a soldier out of time, and he's quipping every now and then. He's making little jokes, and he's trying to be inspirational and all this. And you're doing that, and Anthony Mackie was a good successor for that in his old personality. But you've altered him, and you're writing him to be a dick. And so what's going to happen is people are not going to respond well. He is not going to be as popular. And it's a waste of a good actor, in that Anthony Mackie actually is a good actor and can act this way, can be very likable. And it's another case where you're going to hear the racism calls back out again of like, well, it's just because he's black. And it's like, does nobody else see the terrible writing for this character? Honestly, it's been bad. And it's largely bad in the comics too. Most of the Sam Wilson Captain America books, they've taken all the charm and personality and depth out of this character that would have served him really well as a Captain America. And now he's just kind of a two-dimensional. They've taken away dimension. He's a two-dimensional character now. And it's wholly unnecessary. By the way, for those of you who are like, Bucky should have been the one to be Captain America, Bucky is far more interesting as the Winter Soldier, as somebody who's a little bit more gruff. I mean, honestly, you've got a good character there they've developed. You don't need to make that character Captain America. Just like, frankly, you don't need to make Sam Wilson Captain America either, because the Falcon was really cool. But if Chris Evans is not going to do movies and all the rest, and we need a new Captain America, okay, fine. The Falcon could be a good Captain America if picking between the things and the movies and the spy adventures and other stuff you could do with Bucky as a Winter Soldier versus a Captain America. I think the Falcon is the better choice, but you should keep him as the Falcon. Keep him, meaning his personality, meaning how he shows up. It's just better. I think I don't know what they're doing with Sam Wilson. I didn't understand the comics. I don't understand the movies. Again, it's even more baffling in the movies because Anthony Mackie is by and large likable. So it's weird to me. Anyway, my prediction is that we're headed for another round of "you're racist," toxic fandom bullshittery. But in this case, a lot of that is because Marvel absolutely dropped the ball in both the build for the character and also the build for the team. Whether you like Thunderbolts or not, it did an effective job of showing how these characters were flawed and overcoming their flaws, and people like to root for an underdog by nature. And so you wound up making that team likable in a lot of cases. And they're going to go up against a team we've never heard of, and if true, assembled out of a lot of characters that really didn't stick the landing in their solo movies. So we'll see. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.